long story short, that's when everything began. From like 9 p.m. till 4 in the morning, I was raped. They took breaks and told me I had to refilm scenes. I tried to run naked from the hotel room at one point. I was physically shoved back, and there was someone outside of the door. I didn't even make it to the door. I said, "Fuck you, I'm not doing anything else."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, then we'll put everything on the internet that we have right now with your full name, or we'll send it to your parents. Do you want them to find out?"
First of all, we want to say thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
This is an important conversation for many reasons. One of them being that people think that sex trafficking and porn are separate industries, and your experience sheds light on the connections between porn and sex trafficking. You never agreed to do porn at all, yet your abuse was posted online
With my full name.
to mainstream internet sites, and although the porn production company GirlsDoPorn were eventually shut down and convicted of sex trafficking, they went unchecked for 11 years or so. They also claimed to be ethical, like an ethical porn company during those 11 years. But we'll get more into those details. The first thing we want before jumping back in time is we want to know how you're doing. By the way, we want to introduce Cozy
This is Cozy.
to the audience. We have a little mic set up for Cozy. When you came in and I saw Cozy, immediately in my mind I was like, we should have set up a mic for Cozy. It was just too cute to not do it, and so I literally put a mic down there for
I think that is
Cozy
quite
as well.
adorable.
Super cute.
Thank you.
But going back, how are you doing?
It's been an emotional roller coaster. I was trafficked 6.5 years ago. It's been a roller coaster of emotions. It's been a long time coming with the FBI trial, and we had Wolf, one of the main guys that started the
One of the
GirlsDoPorn.
co-founders.
Yes, he did plead guilty yesterday. So there has been a lot of publicity surrounding it. We put Andre Garcia away for 20 years last June. So we have seen justice, but with that has come immense harassment. It's all being brought to light, and I feel like the stories that are being shared about the women are so inaccurate. So I'm really excited to be here today. This is just my story. Each woman that I had the honor of meeting at court and when we were testifying, they were incredibly brave. They have all been hurt beyond words. And it was a really difficult day, that first day that we testified. It was rewarding, exhausting, empowering, validating, but at the same time, it was just so shocking to know how much it's affecting all these women, myself included, years later. I feel like it's going to be a lifelong battle. It's something that they put on the internet. They stole something from us that is never going away, even though we legally own the rights to the videos now. It'll always be out there, and it's something that I am having to learn to live with and get stronger. There's been a lot of therapy involved. Cozy helps a lot, probably more than anything. But I'm stronger than I used to be. I had some suicide attempts even right before trial last year. I went in with stitches on my arm. I have this nice scar that almost looks surgical. And when people say, "Oh, what happened?" I don't like to lie. I'm not here to gain anything. I'm not being paid for this. I don't want to have monetary gain from the trafficking, from the trauma. I'm simply here to tell my story in hopes that hopefully we can stop this.
Yeah.
I know it's always going to be there, but we can bring education to people. We can bring it to the light of day and hopefully help people that have been through any sort of sexual trauma, because there is hope in healing. It's definitely not easy. It's very hard and it's a long road, but I'm living proof. I'm still here.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly at times, but I'm doing better, and I'm excited to educate and bring this to light.
It's really cool that you have experienced a lot of healing, and we can tell that that's the case because you are here speaking about it and fighting. And so we are very grateful for that. As I asked that question, how are you doing today? I think it's very telling that just yesterday you had an update about one of the co-founders. To me, that shows how this has impacted you. Because when I asked that question, how are you doing? I was expecting you to say, like, great, I did yoga this morning. I had whatever for breakfast. But your first thought was, yesterday we had an update.
Yeah, I had to fake it for so long, pretending I was okay, that I really appreciate authenticity now. So I needed to realize it's okay not to be okay every day. And you really do have to allow yourself to feel pain in order to work through it. I spent years running and numbing and hiding. And when someone would say, hey, how are you? I feel like answers are commonly disingenuous. We're always, oh, I'm good. I did yoga. Yeah, fine. I'm fine. Yeah. But I just want to live the rest of my life in an authentic way. I want to be genuine and real, and everyone has trauma in their lives. Everyone has pain. We're all struggling at some point, and we're here to help each other. So being honest, I have bad days, but overall, I have a lot of hope for the future right now that I didn't have for a really long time.
Right.
What are you doing these days to take care of yourself, mentally, emotionally?
Yeah, there were years where I tried therapy. I've been a yoga instructor for a long time. That helped me a lot, but more than anything, I had to seek medical help. I had to be hospitalized at times. The self-harm and suicidal ideations just got too much, and it's okay to ask for help, I've realized. I really was scared to do that. I am a nurse. I love being able to connect with my patients now, saying, hey, it's okay to hurt. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is hold someone's hand and validate them. So I'm trying to let people in, and I didn't do that for a long time. I have really bad ADD, so I get off topic sometimes. Lately, I'm doing a lot of therapy. I do talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. I am on antidepressants, or I was on antidepressants for years. I would get egotistical at times and go off of them thinking, oh, I don't need this. I can do it alone. I'm tough, or they just made me feel too weak. So that wasn't healthy. And then I would spiral. And I would think at times, oh, I don't need therapy. And I did have a therapist commit suicide. And learning to open up to someone new after that and retell your story is re-traumatizing. Telling it so much to the lawyers and the FBI, I got to the point where I was so sick and tired of talking about it that I just didn't want to anymore. So for a while, my therapist, she was my new therapist. She was great. She was patient with me. We'd talk about my day or a date that I had went on. And now, lately, the past couple of months, we've been very real. She had me write myself a letter saying, what if you had wanted to do porn? What if you had agreed to go there knowing what was going to happen? How would your life be different? How would you accept yourself? And I got so angry, and it was so difficult at first. And eventually I wrote that letter, and I thought, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has trials. And it gave me a lot of self-compassion that I didn't have before. Some of the girls did go in to filming, or they went to San Diego knowing what they were going to take place, what was going to take place, what they were going to be part of, but they were groomed, they were coerced, they were lied to.
Yeah, they're still tricked.
Yes, and that's why the men were convicted of not only sex trafficking, but conspiracy for sex trafficking. And I don't think any differently of any woman for their story. I didn't know, and it is frustrating being portrayed as a Jane Doe because they kind of just lump us all into one thing, and everyone's story was unique. Everyone was lied to. Everyone was coerced. I thought I was flying out for yoga clothing modeling, and it looks like one thing. It makes us all look like porn stars. The lawsuit has called us money-hungry sluts. There's been a lot of horrible backlash. So being honest and authentic finally with that, being real with my therapist, actually delving into the pain and letting myself experience it has been incredibly helpful. And I also do ketamine therapy. I've been doing that for about 1.5 years. I go into a ketamine center. They're in a lot of different areas. It's given me a chance to disassociate. It's a drug that they use in anesthesia. A lot of people call it Special K. They use it as a party drug. Highly don't recommend that because it can actually be a super transformational tool and really beneficial. And when I do it, I listen to piano music. I have an eye shade on. I lay on a couch. They do 3 injections over 90 minutes. Cozy lays on my lap. She's amazing. And basically, you're in a different dimension. You lose, more so than other psychedelics, you lose sense of self. And it's almost terrifying for a moment, not knowing who you are. And at the same time, it was the biggest relief because my trauma wasn't there.
Wow.
And when I kind of came to, when you have that terrifying moment, who am I? You think, who do I want to be? And like logically, I knew like, oh, I have all of this crap in my life. And during suicidal moments and times that I had before, I thought I can't possibly live with this. I can't bear another day. It's never going to go away. But in that moment, the first ketamine session that I did, I thought, what do I want to go back to? How do I want to make it better? What do I value? And the first thing I saw was Cozy, and she's
cool.
She's a big value. But I thought about family, and I thought of all the things I would miss if I didn't make it back to my body. And it's a really different experience. Every time I've been, it's been very different. But it actually regenerates gray matter in your brain, and it helps reset synapses, recreates positive neural pathways. So it actually is good for you.
Literally changing your brain.
Yes.
And helping you frame the trauma in different ways. I'm
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm not ready to feel the trauma. Sometimes it's like I'm having a fight with my mom, and that's what I think about going in. Right. Sometimes I set intentions. Sometimes it's deep and sometimes it's lighter. But it's been really transformational. I highly recommend it to post-traumatic stress disorders patients, to survivors. If antidepressants and regular traditional therapy hasn't worked, it's been around.
A lot of people are seeing a lot of success with ketamine.
Yeah, for over like 10 years, that it's been considered a really positive alternative treatment for PTSD, especially with war veterans. Yeah. So I highly recommend it, but do it with a medical practitioner. Yeah. Because they dose you correctly, and that's been the thing that has helped me the very most. It helped me get off my antidepressants. It helped me realize I have things to live for. Opening up to my family has been the biggest transformation in my life. They didn't know what had happened until the FBI trials started.
Okay.
They never asked, and I never told them. I think consciously I thought I was protecting them, letting them think I was a porn star, because that's how they saw it.
Okay.
That's how it looks. And there was all this shame. How could you do this to us? Why would you? We all have to live with this. And that was the first time I considered taking my life, because I couldn't bear the thought of my parents telling my little brother what his sister had just done. And it seems
like, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
It seems like the stigmatization around that whole thing is what caused you to feel dread about opening up.
Absolutely. I think that was the worst part for me. I was this good girl in high school. Everyone knew that I wasn't a partier. I was kind of labeled a prude because I was religious, and I was proud of that. And the first person that sent me the video when it was released about a week and a half, 2 weeks after, was a boy from high school with a picture of his penis saying, wow, look who grew out of her prude stages. And I just immediately got violently ill, and my parents were sent it by one of their family friends later that night. So in the religious community that I grew up in, my high school community, I felt like everyone knew within a week.
Wow.
And I was just disgustingly harassed, and no one asked. No one said, hey, are you okay? Hey, what happened? Hey, why did you do this? So I just let it go on. I just said how sorry I was for betraying their trust and making them feel shame, thinking maybe I was protecting them a little from my pain. And then I thought, if I kill myself, everyone's better off. I don't have to make them ashamed of me anymore. Everything that I've done wrong will go away. And I still felt so stupid and naive for going out there. I held a lot of self-guilt. I thought, oh, you stupid, naive girl. And they were charged for not only sex trafficking, but conspiracy for sex trafficking. These men did it for over 10 years. They were master groomers.
Yeah.
They were master manipulators and liars. And it's taken a lot of therapy to work through that. I still have days where I blame myself, and I think a lot of the girls do. But overall, we've created this really beautiful support network. And having my family actually know what happened, it was difficult that it took the FBI trial for that to come to light. But having them actually know what happened, knowing that I was a victim. I hate that word. I like survivor so much more, but it's something I have to internalize.
It's important to acknowledge.
It is.
It's important to acknowledge you were a victim.
Absolutely.
And then also not have that victim mentality.
Yes. It's rape trauma syndrome. People blame themselves, and they're so traumatized from the sexual assault that they don't tell anyone. And it's so common. And I did that for years. I didn't think I deserved to be alive. I didn't think anyone deserved to know the truth. And no one asked. Everyone was so eager to label me that I just owned it. And I think that's been the best part of actually having the FBI trial. Seeking some justice has been incredible, getting to know the other women and how strong they are, but getting to kind of tell the world, no, this is not my identity. This was not something I chose. Knowing that I couldn't look at myself naked in the mirror for a few years. I felt physically ill if I would go to the grocery store and a man would check me out because I felt like it's this ugly thing. It might as well be tattooed on my face. Everyone recognizes me, and it's still reposted weekly. Like, I own the rights, and it happens constantly. I've changed my phone number 6 times. I've had to move. I'd have stalkers, a dead cat left on my doorstep. The harassment has been disgusting. I got stood up on a date one time, and he said, oh, I wouldn't want to go out with a porn star. And so I sent him the link to our article, and he goes, yeah, but it's still out there.
Oh, no.
And I was like, okay, yeah, this is part of my life. I got divorced because my ex-husband couldn't handle it. I was so broken, and he didn't know how to support me, and it just destroyed things.
As you're talking, one of the things that's going through my mind is the interview that was done by the BBC with Mia Khalifa. I don't know if you've seen that. Oh,
yes. Yeah. Yes.
But in that interview, she says that she gets emails and DMs all the time from women who were trafficked into pornography. And I think there's so many misconceptions around what happened to you.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that people understand when they go on the internet to get a quick fix. They don't understand they might be participating in human trafficking.
Right.
All of the men that have seen my video and objectified me, I have goosebumps. It's a hard thing to talk about. You don't know the girls or boys or children that are in that video.
Yeah.
I might have looked like I wanted to be there because I had been beaten up and threatened and trapped and drugged.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I've had to see it multiple times because of court. And I can tell my eyes look completely dead. And I remember how I felt in that moment. I remember having to lock myself in the bathroom afterwards, coming out to a blood-soaked bed. I remember how it felt. I didn't enjoy a single moment of that. I can't actually enjoy sex since then. Never have been able to.
Of course.
Sorry, TMI for you.
Not
but
TMI. That's just I think
it's just so easy to disassociate because it doesn't feel safe. My own body doesn't feel safe. And the idea that men are masturbating to me and thinking in that moment, like, oh, so hot, looking for these things on Google. They have no idea the blood, the pain, the tears, the suicide attempts, how much that ruined my life, and how they're contributing to the need every time they go on a pornographic website. So I think the more that we talk about how destructive porn is, how closely related human trafficking and porn's creating the need.
As long as there's a demand, they will supply it.
Absolutely.
They will exploit to
So we
fulfill
need
that demand.
we need to lower the demand and try to create real relationships, real intimacy, maybe work on ourselves a little so we feel worthy of that.
I just want to say that if any of our listeners do struggle with the porn habit, that doesn't make them a bad person.
Not at all.
And that if they are experiencing that, there are resources to get to a healthier place for them.
Absolutely.
But going back to what you said about the fact that they might be consuming content that appears to be consensual.
Yeah, it was top 10, the Girls Do Porn channel, top 10 recommended channels for years.
Right.
And they had a download button.
Right. That's a big time
Top
company.
10 recommended.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why Pornhub doesn't have a download button anymore. But how long was that around? How many people were affected by that? That's one of the reasons my video still gets released constantly.
Right.
Because it's been downloaded and people aren't going to listen to a court order in different countries. They don't care.
Or even within this country.
Yeah, so I know that it's never going to go away. I do agree fully that people struggling with pornography, alcoholics aren't bad people. Gambling doesn't make you a bad person. Watching pornography does not make you a bad person. Everyone makes mistakes. And I think I've ruined porn. I hope I've ruined porn. I know I have for my brothers.
Yeah.
And hopefully I have for some other people. Hopefully I do for some listeners today.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't make you a bad person. There's help for everyone.
Right.
I can't stress that enough.
The name of our podcast, as you know, is Consider Before Consuming. And I think that the listeners will benefit from hearing your story.
Yeah.
You've made it abundantly clear that you were not interested in doing pornography or nudity of any type.
No, not of any type. I was forced into it.
It all started with a job listing.
Yes, that's correct.
Can you go into details about how you happened upon that particular job listing?
Yes, I was doing a lot of fitness modeling at the time. I was in school and paying for college myself. Fitness modeling was clothed. I taught yoga, so it was professional. I had never done anything nude. I had never sent a nude picture prior to that. It said female fitness models wanted age 18 to 22. They posted these all over the country. And Craigslist is big. Where I'm from, everyone uses, like, I sold a car on Craigslist one time.
Right.
I always thought, like, oh, like, they probably vet these things. I'm
Right.
sure it's professional. And they had a website link that they sent me, and it looked really professional. They had a really great photographer. I was like, oh, okay, awesome. Then I spoke to reference models. So everything was like very professional, very well planned, very well thought out. They had their whole routine completely down to a T.
Right. They were professional groomers.
Yeah, especially
Literally.
making sure to talk on the phone more. Oh, well, if you have a minute, I'll just give you a quick call and I can explain it. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great.
Yeah, seems personable, but it doesn't leave a paper trail. I
Absolutely.
wouldn't think that.
I think they made sure to not have paper trails. And their lawyer encouraged a lot of that as well.
We know that you made it abundantly clear, again, I've said this, but I'm going to state it again, that you were not interested in doing porn. But can you speak to when was the first time they introduced that idea and what your response was?
Absolutely. So I had shown them fitness photos. That's what they asked for, to like see my muscle tone, flexibility, things like that. It didn't seem sexual whatsoever. And it was probably after about 10 phone calls and email exchanges that they said, oh, by the way, we also own an adult film production company and nude modeling and swimsuit modeling. If you'd be interested in that, said this over the phone, you could make even more money. And it's all very tasteful, very professional. We had talked long enough at this point that I'm like, oh, these guys are good guys. Like, they always say, hey, how you doing? Like, it was always kind of rushed, but they were very polite. And I felt like we had like a
good rapport.
Yeah, a good rapport. There was like some camaraderie almost. And when they said that, I was like, oh my goodness, absolutely not. I was raised super religious. No, like, never thought in my mind. And then they're like, oh, well, we'll send you an email really quick with the pictures of our male performers, just in case it piques your interest, kind of thing. Which
I think is a strategic move on their end, because then in court they can say, we sent you an email.
Exactly.
That says,
exactly. Yeah, and then I'm calling them saying, absolutely not.
Right.
Fitness modeling, not interested in any other part of any industry you're part of. Hell no, never gonna happen. And that's when they were like, oh, well, if you were interested, this would be the distribution. You would make $10,000 instead of just a couple thousand for yoga clothing modeling. And I'm like, fitness apparel only, thank you.
Yeah.
So I did know it was an option, but I had vehemently rejected it prior to going out to San Diego.
Did they seem to respect your rejection?
Yes, they said, oh, okay, well, it's always an option once you're there. If you change your mind, just think about it. So when I got on that airplane, I completely thought I'm going out for fitness modeling, and that is it.
And that was you had just turned 22.
Yes, it was a couple weeks after my 22nd birthday.
And if I put myself in your shoes, I think I would feel some excitement as I land in San Diego for this, this what you thought was a fitness modeling job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, and I was a professional, so yoga instructor. So I was like, okay, like I'm qualified to do this. And it was completely different the moment I got there.
When you say that it was completely different from the moment you got there, can you speak to that a little bit more? Like, at what point did you become suspicious?
I think it's important to talk about right before we go there, the reference models. I had FaceTime conversations. I wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to go out to San Diego and just trust these men. I was wary. I was like, okay, so I've spoken to your photographer. I've seen your website. I've seen portfolios. I'd really like to speak with some prior models and see how the experience went for them. So I had 2 different FaceTime calls. The girls were really, really sweet. They had Instagrams. They were like, oh, these guys are the best to work with. I made great money. It was super easy. They're so kind. You'll be super comfortable, in and out in like a day, and then you're good. And if you want to do the porn part, it was super enjoyable, best sex I've ever had. You won't regret it, kind of thing. And I'm like, nope, absolutely not. Clothing modeling. And they're like, oh, okay, well, it's an option. Like, they had also said it's an option, but when I declined, it wasn't like, oh, you can't come.
Right.
Because I would have never gone had that happened.
So you did your due diligence to vet the company.
I thought I had. I blame myself a lot still for not doing more. But I had never heard the words girls do porn. I had zero idea that is what they did.
Yeah.
Well, they seemed to completely respect your no.
They did, yeah.
And
they were like, it's an option. It's
an option, right. Yeah. And so I think that's all anybody can do.
Right.
Yeah.
State your intention, and I'm sure that your red flag would have gone off if they were like, oh, come on, don't be a prude or whatever.
Yeah, there was none of that at all.
You were respectful in the moment.
Yeah.
So you did your due diligence,
There have been parents that literally dropped their daughters off. And my parents knew where I was going. They had my flight info. They sent me my return flight too before I went out, and my hotel info. I had all of it in an email. Told my mom everything. I'm going out for clothing modeling, and then she doesn't hear from me for a few days.
Wow. So going back to the question, now that we have that context,
Yes.
going back to my question of when did you start to become suspicious of this opportunity? How did that come about?
Okay,
How did that play out?
Like, do you mean once I got there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I landed, and Teddy Geige, he was their photographer. I had no idea who he was, but I had talked to Matthew Wolf on the phone, and he's like, hey, there's going to be a black Escalade out front to pick you up. Super excited. We'll just let you get like a good night's rest tonight, and then we'll go to the beach and shoot tomorrow so that we have better lighting. And I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds good. And then I see the black Escalade. I get in. He came around and opened the back door for me. And I put my suitcase in, and I was like, oh, super. What a gentleman. Thank you. And then the second we start driving, the doors lock. And I kind of had a little bit of a weird feeling. And I like moved the door a little bit, and it wouldn't budge. So I was like, I started getting wary. And then he was like, hey, do you want anything to eat? And I had a sandwich. And he was like, wow, most girls don't like eating before this. They want to look their skinniest. And I was like, what an odd comment. And then they took me to Andre Garcia's apartment, and automatically getting out of the car, Teddy comes up, like opens my door for me. I couldn't open it, has his hand on my back, and automatically there's another guy that comes up, and he was a bigger guy. I don't even know what his name was. He was the one that eventually took me to the airport to leave when they finally let me go. And he stood next to me. So I have men on either side of me. And I'm like, okay, where are we going? And they were like, oh, we just needed to like take a quick headshot of you. And we have a makeup artist for the headshot. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like that
Seems normal.
Yeah. Like everything's like, it's all, oh, it'll be great. They're being super, it'll just take a minute.
Casual.
Great. Yeah. Great makeup artist. Really cool apartment. Right. And like everything's gated. It's like an underground parking garage. So I'm like, I haven't seen a single person other than these two men since I landed. So I get in the elevator, we go up, and automatically once I was in the room and the door shuts, the bigger guy stands by the door. And they're like, oh, hey, like, let's take your purse for you. So they take my purse, which has my cell phone in it. And then makeup artist started. I was alone kind of in like the living room area waiting for a while before everything else started happening. And I was never alone. I'm sitting alone on a couch while a man is always in a stool or standing in front of the door. And I'm like, okay, this is like, can I have my phone? And they're like, oh, we just placed your purse in the safe, just to be safe. We don't want you thinking we're stealing from you or anything. And I'm like, okay, when is this like going to happen? It's getting late and it just gets weirder and weirder. Hair and makeup are done. They're like, oh, you probably want to shower. Go use the shower and straighten your hair. And I'm like, I showered this morning. I'm good. And my hair and makeup is done. And then they told me to take my clothes off. And it was what they called the panda pic. They had a picture of a panda. It's like artwork in the background. And at that point, it was Andre Garcia, Teddy. And so I have multiple big men in the room. I'm 5'5", don't have my phone. And they're like, okay, take your clothes off. Michael Pratt needs a picture to make sure you are who you say you are. That's when I really felt terrified and began to panic. And eventually they stripped me, not by my choice. And then they took me, 4 men, including Andre Garcia at that point, took me back down to the Escalade, and they're like, we're just going to take you to your hotel room. And I'm pretty traumatized at that point. I'm like, I want my phone. I want to go home. I don't care about the yoga clothing modeling. I'm not doing this anymore. And they're like, okay, well, we'll just drop you off at your hotel then. And we go to the hotel. On the way, Andre stopped the car, and I still can't get out at this point. Like, it's still locked. I don't have my phone. Stops the car and picks up marijuana and a bottle of pills from some guy in like an alley on the way. And like the windows are tinted. I can't roll my window down. I can't do anything at this point. And I'm like, I'm hoping that they're just going to take me to the hotel now. And so once we got there, it's like underground parking once again. There's no one around. We go up to the hotel and they have all these boxes. And the moment that I knew I was in really big trouble was when the door shut and one man stayed outside while one guy like left with the car, and Teddy and Andre are in the room and the other guy's guarding the door from outside. And they automatically unplugged the hotel room phone and set all these papers out in front of me. And at some point, the guy that was guarding the door came in to intimidate me into signing these papers. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's just for your athletic photo shoot tomorrow. And I'm like, I don't even want to do it anymore. Like, can I just go? Can you guys go? And at that point, I started getting threatened. I was intimidated. They're standing over me saying, sign here, initial here. And I'm like, can I read these? And no, everything. We have to hurry. And long story short, that's when everything began. From like 9 p.m. till 4 in the morning, I was raped. They took breaks and told me I had to refilm scenes. I tried to run naked from the hotel room at one point. I was physically shoved back, and there was someone outside of the door. I didn't even make it to the door. I said, fuck you, I'm not doing anything else.
Right.
And they're like, oh, then we'll put everything on the internet that we have right now with your full name, or we'll send it to your parents. Do you want them to find out? So I went through I froze, I fought. I didn't know if they would kill me.
Right.
I was quite terrified of that. And then it got more and more threatening. And then like, oh, do you want me to hurt you now? Do you want it to be rougher? And every time I didn't look like I was enjoying it, they would refilm the scene. Yeah, eventually I just wanted it to be over. So eventually I did what they said.
Yeah.
But at no point did I enjoy any of it.
Right.
During my deposition, their lawyer put it up, a freezed still image of my video of me in a very compromised position, nude, and says, sure looks like you're enjoying it in this part. He was trying to get me to admit guilt or some sort of ownership. And I had to physically run from the room and throw up.
Wow.
And when the raping did finally stop, when they finally got what they wanted, I locked myself in the bathroom. And it was starting to get light at that point. And I eventually came out, and they had ordered room service and were sitting there eating burgers and French fries, watching TV, Teddy and Andre. And I said, get out now. And they were like, oh no, want a French fry? Like, stop looking so sad, and like wanted to do more. And I didn't realize that they had canceled the other hotel they had booked for me. They expected me to stay there that night. I was like physically in pain for days. It was not only was it like awful being violated, but it was like physically gruesome and horrendous, horribly painful.
Right.
It seems like they didn't even care to edit out like your own blood because it was just part of it. So was that just part of this?
No, I think they edited it out quite a bit because the videos.
They wanted it to appear consensual.
Yeah, the video's a little less than an hour.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't think I've seen it. I don't think that it really showed the blood that was covering the bed.
Strategic.
They didn't let me leave. They brought me back to Andre Garcia's apartment in the morning. I still didn't have my phone. didn't eat breakfast or anything. They tried to get me to film a solo scene, and then they wanted me to film a threesome scene, and I said absolutely not. During the night before, Teddy had kept saying like, "Oh, give us a little teaser of your solo tomorrow." And I'm like, "What? I don't even know what you're talking about." And he was like, "You have to masturbate on camera." And I'm like, "Absolutely not going to happen." And then there's more of all those stages of trauma. I did the fighting, I did the screaming. It didn't help, and the threats got worse and worse. And when they brought my family into it, I would have done anything to get out of it at that point. And so I said, I'll give you what you want. So eventually in the morning, they're like, "Okay, so we canceled your flight home. You're going to film the solo scene." And I'm like, "You can kill me at this point. You can do whatever you want. I'm not doing anything else." And they had picked up another girl at that point, and I told her she needed to run. And she knew what she was there for. She's not part of the case at all. And I was like, "No, you don't understand. You need to get out of here." And Andre got more aggressive that day, tried other things. There was more physical and sexual trauma that day. And eventually, when I just refused to comply and they knew they had another girl that was willing and ready, they let me go to the airport that night.
Through the process, did they force you to take any drugs or alcohol?
Yes. After they forced me to sign the paperwork, they forced me to smoke marijuana and gave me 4 shots of vodka. Yeah, I can see it in my eyes. Yeah. Like I look dead inside, and that's exactly how I felt. And then as soon as I got home, the video was all over the internet with my full, very unique name a week and a half, 2 weeks later. A lot more happened in that time. I tried to call Michael Pratt at one point and say, like, absolutely not.
Once you were home?
No, while I was still at Andre's.
Oh, okay.
You got your phone back?
No, Andre let me use his phone.
Oh.
Because I wanted to talk to Pratt. And Andre's like, "Oh, we can talk about the solo video." And Pratt started going off on me saying, you're not as hot as we thought you were. Your body's not as good as we thought it was. We're not going to pay you anymore. Yeah, a lot of degrading, a lot of swearing, lots of yelling. And I'm like, please just let me go home. Yeah. And I didn't have my purse. Like I couldn't make my flight home. I was trapped. I was terrified. I didn't know how long I would be there. And yeah, by the time I got home, when I got picked up from the airport, I was so traumatized. I thought as long as no one knows, as long as no one finds out, I can just bury it and hopefully it goes away. And I did go to the doctor within a few days, and I had like terrible vaginal lacerations and the internal injuries from the horrific rape. Like it wasn't just rough sex, it was complete abuse.
When you say that if you just buried it, it would all go away, was that the case? Did you try to bury it? Did it go away?
No. And even letting my family think the worst of me, which in my mind, having my family think I was a porn star for years was the worst thing in my mind.
Worse than the abuse?
Having them think I was a porn star, yes, that was worse than the abuse. Wow. in my mind. Wow. Having them think the absolute worst of me. I still have, I have a big family, and I still have moments at family gatherings where I'll feel like, oh, I should just leave early. I don't really feel welcome. I feel like I'm the screw up of the family.
Goodness.
Yeah, I'm still mending those relationships. I have a lot of like deep-rooted anger and resentment that no one like could see the cry for help.
Right.
And I will be honest, I was very good at hiding it for a while. And then they were like, oh, she's just so suicidal and drinking to numb and hurting herself because she's so ashamed. Because she embarrassed our family so much because everyone knows. And like my dad's friends had seen it. Like my parents had seen it.
Because it was on major porn sites.
Yeah, the link that everyone was getting was
so-
from Pornhub. And I thought, okay, I can do this for everyone. It's better if they don't know. It's harder on me, but I'm protecting them. And I now like going on dates or with friends or a lot of people in my life, I almost feel like I owe it to them to just tell them right away, because I'm like, oh, you'll find out anyway. And I almost think, oh, once you find out, you won't want to date me or you won't want to be my friend because it's this horrible thing. And I thought I owed it to them. I thought
Like
everyone...
you want to contextualize it right off the get-go so they understand what happened?
It's more I just like want to warn them how broken I am sometimes. Now like with the FBI trial, there's proof.
Yeah.
So I can be like, no, I was human trafficked. Yes, there's a pornographic video of me out there. Here is the 20-year sentencing.
Yeah.
But before there was proof, I thought no one's going to believe me anyway. So I might as well just warn everyone, yeah, there's this awful thing. Yes, it was trafficking. But I didn't feel like anyone would believe me anyway. So I just kind of became a shell of my former self. I wasn't like the gregarious, vivacious, bubbly girl I was as a kid and growing up. And I feel like they took that from me.
What was the time frame from when it happened? It happened in January of 2016. And fast forward to the conviction of them being charged with sex trafficking. How many years was it between those two dates?
Andre Garcia was just charged in June of 2021. So it was years.
That's 5 years.
It was years, yeah. I joined the trial. It had already been going on for like a year. We had to merge two different groups of girls. So I became Jane Doe 18. And that's when I told my family, hey, I joined an FBI trial. And they said, oh, you're just embarrassed trying to get this off the internet, huh? And I'm like, no, this is what happened. During the sentencing, I didn't let anyone come with me. I didn't want to put my mom through hearing about it. And she's read the articles that I wrote with you guys. But it took years to get to a place where I could even like talk about it. And it's been 6.5 years, and I feel like just since testifying against Andre Garcia last June, I feel like that gave me some of my life back.
Good.
The harassment hasn't lessened at all. I just kind of had to get stronger.
Yeah. Has your mom and family increased their understanding and empathy as the convictions have come out and they better understand the situation?
Yeah, I think having proof, it's sad that it takes that.
Right.
My family has been great and way more understanding. It's more like friends, people I knew growing up. They're like, oh my gosh, I thought I knew you. And now I can kind of say, or that one guy that stood me up, I can send him an article and be like, there you go. You're a jackass.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I don't blame people. I know it is a lot of trauma. We do all have trauma. We all have things in our closets. Sometimes we're just afraid to be ourselves.
Right.
And I really am trying to own it now. That's part of doing this podcast. I just want to educate people. I want to make sure this isn't as taboo to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to reduce the stigmas against it.
Do you mind if I interrupt?
No, please
I was
do.
just going to say, your initial response was to hide it, right? And bury it and act like it
absolutely.
never happened.
Yeah.
We know that,
just know that I had that trauma.
Right.
And carried alone.
Right. And we know that's not the best approach to trauma, right? But it's a natural instinct to want to do that.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious how it's been. How has it been for you to actually speak out about it, to own that happened, and if it's been helpful to talk more about it?
I think when I finally opened up to my family, I was terrified that they wouldn't believe me.
Yeah.
And I had the evidence at that point. And since I opened up to them, it's gotten easier. Mostly since we put Garcia away for 20 years. Yeah. I couldn't, I was the only girl that hadn't written her statement. Every single girl that was there that testified emailed their statement to the judge or brought it handwritten and had it ready. I typed mine out on my phone in my hand while the first couple of girls were testifying. And I waited in a different room where it was on a big video monitor so I could see what was going on. I was like halfway through. So I didn't even know what I was going to say. I didn't even really know if I could do it. And I didn't have anyone there supporting me. Should have brought Cozy, darn it. That would have been really nice. Would have been helpful. I had stitches on my arms. I had just tried to die a week before. Wow. So I didn't even know if I could do it. And I think that was one of the proudest moments of my life. There was a lot of women had anger and hatred and resentment, and they have every right. And a lot of people said, you're incapable of change. And
wait, who's incapable of change?
Andre Garcia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he wouldn't like make eye contact with us. And I asked the judge at one point at the end of my testimony if I could address him. And I said, and I was like really grateful that I could even, that I had the capacity to even feel this way. I said, it's not up to me to judge the worth of your soul, but I truly hope that you do change one day. And the only reason I testified was so that he couldn't keep hurting girls. That's the only reason I'm here today, so that we can educate people. But that, since that moment, it's been easier to talk about.
Good.
I think going through every detail, writing the articles with you guys, it was validating, and it does help me heal, because I still have the guilt. I still crave validation. I don't even realize it sometimes.
That's human nature.
Yeah, it really is. And as a nurse, sometimes the best thing I can do is sit there and hold someone's hand and let them talk about it. I think a lot of the times when we have friends or family, you say, "Hey, I'm struggling," and they automatically say, "Oh, well, go exercise." Or like last night, I was having a hard time because of
today. Oh, because of the
wolf
hearing.
Yeah, there was some articles posted, and it just automatically says like, this is what happened to all of these girls, and being lumped in there, being called a porn star, being things that say like we got awarded millions of dollars in this settlement. Like, I've never seen a dime of that money. I've never done any of this for money. Hospital bills, therapy, it's all ridiculously expensive. They've ruined our lives in so many different ways. But just being like reminded of that. Yes, he pled guilty. He should have years ago. Andre Garcia got 20 years. Some women thought he should have gotten life. It is validating. I'm grateful that we have a justice system that does listen to us and that we are seeing some justice. But every time a trial comes up, the harassment ramps up. It's reposted. I've had disgusting messages the past couple of weeks. I'll probably change my phone number again soon. And it's something that I just have to prepare myself for. I'm not using my name today in this because I don't want to make this about me. I want to give all of the other girls the amount of compassion that they deserve. This isn't about me. It's about telling the story of what these men did. And this is my personal story, but we all had awful trauma. We all have to deal with it. We all get lumped into these categories. We're considered the JDs, the GDP girls, and there's like Reddit feeds calling us all sorts of things. Like, oh, they're just trying to sue Pornhub to get more money. And it's like, what money? Yeah. I've never seen that. Thank you for harassing us more.
Right.
I think I almost
and
have to...
And I just want to say, if at some point you do receive money, that's justice. Yeah,
it would help pay for therapy and things that these women desperately need. That's how it works. Yeah, they hid all of their assets, though. I think that that's something that is good for people to actually know. That first lawsuit we did, where we did sue JDP, we've never seen a dime from it. And, like, who knows if we ever will.
When you say sued JDP, oh, you mean GDP?
Yeah, GDP.
Well, there's, in court documents, there's evidence that Michael Pratt said, when I bankrupt this company, these girls are fucked.
Yes, so he did declare bankruptcy before fleeing.
That was Wolf or Pratt?
That was Pratt.
That was Pratt. And I remember, yeah, and our lawyers have said, like, we think he's hidden all of his assets offshore, or it's in cryptocurrency or whatever. So we've just kind of accepted, like, I never went into it for that. I went into it to fight for other women.
We are grateful that you're doing that.
Thank you.
The world's a better place because you're doing that.
It's getting easier and easier to talk about.
I think it's important to note, too, that y'all are not just going after this from a legal standpoint. You also fought as soon as the videos were posted with takedown requests.
Oh, yeah, I do that still, constantly.
Right, and so this isn't a monetary gain thing. This is also like you're fighting for your own dignity to have these videos of your exploitation taken down, and all the women have. What was the response like, and when was the first time that you tried to have a takedown request for all these mainstream tube sites?
Oh, yeah.
Were those requests ever listened to?
It's a really good question. The first request I sent was to Pornhub, because that was the first place I saw it. I didn't get a response. It wasn't taken down. And then I realized once I was sent more and more and more links, and once more people were showing it to me, once I made the mistake of Googling myself, I kind of realized it's like a drop in a bucket. At that point, I did send out, I still do this, I still make the mistake of Googling myself. When I feel strong, I usually do it like once a month right now, which is why I know it was just recently reposted a few weeks ago. I think I've managed to probably get it taken off of 4 websites.
Permanently?
You can still Google it. It still shows up on like a thumbnail. The image is still there. I keep trying to get Google to take those down. And I did participate in a illicit image study with Google. They are trying to improve their system, but like there's drop in a bucket. There's horrible pornography all over the internet, and the more I try to get mine taken down, I feel like the more it surfaces. Even though I own the legal rights, and yeah, most websites don't listen. Most websites have more pornographic websites will have like a contact us at the bottom. And so I'll send the link and say, hey, this is illegal. This was human trafficking. This was against my will. I have court documents proving it. I'll attach those if I need to. One of the girls wrote out like a really good outline that we could just start sending. But I realized like the more I look it up, the sicker I get. And so I have just had to get stronger. It happened 6.5 years ago. Some women it happened over 9 years ago too, and it's still reposted constantly.
And I mean, a huge part of that is because for so long, tube site culture has been you can upload anything and download anything. And after Nicholas Kristof's The Children of Pornhub article in December 2020,
yeah, I read
Visa,
that.
MasterCard, and Discover were going to sever their working relationship with
Pornhub, thank goodness.
Yeah, that was when Pornhub said, "Oh, okay, well, we'll take down this. We'll remove the download option and try to verify more of these accounts and sites and content." But Xvideos, which is the largest PornTube site in the whole world, they get about 3 billion visitors every single month.
I've seen my video on both of those.
They still have a download button.
Yes, they do.
And this is something that a lot of people don't understand, is once something is uploaded to these tube sites, YouTube, it's you have to go through multiple steps to download content from YouTube. You can still do it.
That's very true.
But PornTube sites give you the button right there.
Yeah, or you can just screen record on your computer or your phone.
Exactly. And so people think, they're so greedy asking for more when they have the ownership rights, when the reality is
that's what's so upsetting.
it's a game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah, that's the money hungry whores. There's a big Reddit what are they called? Reddit thread. I don't have Reddit, but I've seen some really disgusting things on there about this trial, using people's names, links to videos on other sites. Oh. Reddit hasn't done anything about taking those down, and they post our personal information constantly. Like, my parents have received letters saying, we're going to come into your home and rape your daughter and murder her, and it's like, that's my parents. I found a fan page for myself.
Oh no.
That had pictures of me with my nieces and nephews, pictures of me growing up, pictures of my family, of one of my weddings, pictures of Cozy. I think that disgusts me more than anything, that they're not only hurting us individually, they're wrecking our families. People have disowned their kids over this, and not everyone believes it. Even though we've been working with the FBI, even though we have won lawsuits, we have had some justice, but it's still, money hungry whores. They're just porn stars. They just want more. They're just embarrassed that it got so big. But that's not true at all. That's never been true.
Going back to the name of the podcast, Consider Before Consuming, we hope that our listeners stop the demand for sex trafficking by refusing to consume pornography. And one of the things that needs to be considered is what you are consuming may not be consensual.
Even when it looks consensual.
Do you want to take a break?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religious affiliation, political persuasion, or any other diversifying factor, porn can impact anyone. If you've recognized the harmful effects of pornography in your life, or recognize the harms pornography can cause in society, we welcome you to become a fighter. As fighters, we strive to be bold, understanding, open-minded, and accepting. If you're ready to become an official fighter, we invite you to join the movement at ftnd.org/fighter. That's ftnd.org/fighter. Join us in our fight for love by becoming a fighter today.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Consider Before Consuming. Consider Before Consuming is brought to you by Fight the New Drug. Fight the New Drug is a non-religious and non-legislative organization that exists to provide individuals the opportunity to make an informed decision regarding pornography by raising awareness on its harmful effects using only science, facts, and personal accounts. If you'd like to learn more about today's guest and the conversation we had, you can check out the links included with this episode. If you've enjoyed listening to Consider Before Consuming, consider subscribing and leaving a review. Again, big thanks to you for listening to this conversation. As you go about your day, we invite you to increase your self-awareness, look both ways, check your blind spots, and consider before consuming.